Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Becky Anderson. We are so excited. We have New York Times best-selling author of The Devil Wears Prada. It's Lauren Weisberger and her new novel, The Singles Game. Well, Lauren, welcome to Naperville and Anderson.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your new novel, The Singles Game.
Thank you.
And also, I guess we should say happy birthday or happy anniversary for
That's right.
10 years for The
Yes.
Devil Wears Prada.
Yes. How old do we all feel?
You know, when you hear stuff like that, you go, oh my gosh, I need a walker or
I
something.
know. 10 years.
I mean, can you believe that?
No, I can't. It's
Wow.
wild, but really fun.
And when you think of everything that happens within a 10-year period, but yeah, because
know.
that was a book that I'm sure that really changed your life.
For sure.
Yeah,
It
in so many
definitely did.
ways.
Yes.
So this book, though, the new book, and it's just out, what, like a
About a week and a half now.
Week and a
Yeah,
half,
exactly.
yeah. So this is your 6th novel,
It is.
right?
Yes.
So does it feel different each time you have a new book that, sort of like having a baby, they're out in the world. And,
Yes.
And I know probably, when you wrote your 2nd novel after The Devil Wears Prada, it's daunting to know because you had such success with that. How does it feel each time? Does it get easier with each book?
It doesn't get easier.
Okay.
I guess it gets easier in terms of my expectations. I know the process, so that makes it a little bit easier now. I know what to expect and when to expect it. I know what the editing's going to look like and the deadlines. I have a better idea of what publication time, like right now, and touring and promoting is. So in that way it is, but the actual writing of the books, I don't think it ever gets any easier.
Yeah.
No.
But after that huge success for your debut novel, was it hard to, or were there more expectations on you or on yourself maybe for that next one?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the sophomore effort for anyone is challenging.
sure.
But it was hard. I remember being pretty nervous about that one.
Yeah. So, a week and a half now, and what are you hearing from your readers or your fans, or even those readers who are new to your work?
So far, it's been really positive, which is really exciting. The reviews have been great, which is awesome, but the best part has been the readers that have come out. The best thing I've heard so far, I've heard a lot of people say, I've read it in a day, which was something that I love. You can't fake that. When you sort of sit down and think, oh, I have an hour or two to read, and then you can't stop, that's the highest compliment. So I'm thrilled to hear that.
Well, I think it's great, too, that it was a summer release. I think
It's meant to be.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
for
the
sure.
beach and the
It
pool.
is, but it is.
Yes.
So, we probably get major sunburn because you just can't get up
Right.
and do anything about it.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, right. So where did the beginnings of this book start, the seeds for this story? So do you remember what things that sort of kind of came together to make up this book?
Truthfully, the original idea to write about the world of professional tennis was really my husband's idea for me.
Okay.
He said, you love this, you've always loved tennis, and wouldn't it be really fun to get behind the scenes and see what it really looks like? So that was where it started, and I thought about it for a minute, and then I said, I think that actually that would be a great idea. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Right.
I'm a fan and I'm a casual player, but I don't know how I'm going to really penetrate this world and find out about it. But it was a challenge, and it was also really fun to do.
Yeah. So tell us about our protagonist. It's Charlotte Silver.
Yes.
Here she's called Charlie.
Charlie,
in the book. So tell us about her and her DNA, because there's similarities between some of your previous novels and this character and what they're facing. In some ways. So tell us about Charlie, and is she, of course, part of you is always the question, or other people or is she totally a made-up composite of something that wasn't based on anyone you know?
She is definitely, she's made up. As much as I would like to have a lot in common with a gorgeous 25-year-old professional athlete, I don't, and that's who Charlie is. First and foremost, she's young. She's ranked number 23 when the book opens, and she's very, very motivated to reach the top 10 to win a Grand Slam. This is all she knows. Tennis is really been all she's known, and she doesn't want to be, as she says in one section, she doesn't want to be a footnote in tennis history. Right. So. She makes a few strategic decisions and starts making, what's the best way of putting it? Starts making headlines on and off the court.
Right. But one of the people that she sort of enlists or takes on to help her reach that other level within the tennis world is a tennis coach who
Yes.
is sort of like your Miranda, but in a
Yes.
male body, right?
Well,
Maybe.
Miranda's, I think of her more as quiet and aloof and sort of silently terrifying.
Right.
And Todd, my coach, is just a screaming, cursing lunatic.
yeah,
So,
I guess
pick your poison.
but both
they're
jerks in their own way.
both horrible. Yes, yes.
So tell us where he comes from, because you've seen coaches like this in other sports, and they exist in the world of professional tennis. So where does he come from?
He is really, truly, honestly a figment of my imagination.
Oh my gosh.
Truly. I needed him as a character that Charlie can push up against. He was really fun to write because screaming, cursing lunatics are.
Right.
They say what everyone's thinking and never actually says. So that part was fun. But it was really important. It's primarily Charlie's story, and it was really important that he sort of serve her character.
Right. And for Charlie, did you base any of the things that happened to her, the things she's facing, on other professional tennis, professionals who we've seen in the news on and off the court, as you say? Did you base some of those incidents on some of that, or
some yes, some no? So I met with current and previous players, and I heard a lot about what their lives are like. So a lot of that sort of general information, certainly things like the fitness and the travel and the training, all of that found its way into the book, and I think it's pretty realistic. There's a lot of things that aren't, but that were just make for good fiction, like the partying and the sleeping around, the affairs. That was nothing that I actually saw. Certainly think happens, but it's fun to write about. There were certain things, like the book opens with a scene where Charlie has a big injury at Wimbledon, and it's because she is wearing borrowed shoes because her actual sneakers have too much color on them, and that was a real incident. That happened to Roger Federer. Not that he was injured from it, but one year the soles, the actual bottoms of his shoes were deemed inadmissible because they had too much color. So I thought, wow, that's really interesting, and how could I sort of take that and run with it? So there are things like that sprinkled throughout for sure.
So you've played tennis a lot of your life.
Nowhere near this.
But still, having played the game, and maybe, did you play it in high school?
I did, yes. Yeah.
But playing competitively.
Yes.
So that own experience of yours, you must have taken a lot of that and put it into the book. I mean, the feel of the game, all the different movements and stuff.
It's the only sport I actually understand. Let's put it that way. I've been going to football games with my husband for 8 years now, and I still don't get it. I could certainly never write about it from like anything feeling like someone who understands it. Tennis, I understand. I played it. I get it. I understand the points. I understand the scoring. I get the feel of being out there. I can imagine what it would be like to be playing at this level. So it wasn't a total stretch.
Right, and that's why I think you can really, you sort of feel for Charlie. You understand what she's going through.
Right. I hope so.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about the research, because I think I read something very briefly that you did some pretty intensive research.
I did.
And probably even going to matches where you saw some of the big players, obviously. But tell us about that, because I think you must have really saw some very interesting things and learned some interesting things about the sport.
I did. That was great. That was probably 6 or 8 months before I started writing. I went to tournaments in Miami and Charleston and Connecticut, and then I got to go to Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, which was amazing. Really, really interesting. And in the players' lounge, player dining, just kind of like back behind the scenes. Taking it all in, seeing what it looks like when they're not on the court, and that was it's hard to call work, but it was really fun.
So who of some of the big players who impressed you the most, or maybe gave you some good fodder for Charlie?
There's one player, an amazing woman named Daniela Hančíková, who's Slovakian, and she was ranked as high as number 5 in the world and she was really, really generous and forthcoming with sharing her story.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
she gave me a lot of insight into what it looks like. She's a veteran. She's been on the tour for, I think, almost 17 years now. She's
Wow.
only 32, but
Oh my gosh.
oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. She turned pro when she was
Wow.
15, and she's been everywhere, seen everything, done everything. So she was really terrific resource.
So what were your most surprising observations? You know, some of the facts or fictions that people think about professional tennis.
Well, one of them sounds obvious, but I didn't realize it, is how long their season is. They play 10 and a half out of every 12 months.
How do you,
I mean,
how do you have a life?
you don't. You
Yeah.
don't. It seems impossible. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really hard. A lot of them don't even have homes because why would you? You're never
Right.
there. They're on the road and they're living out of suitcases and they're traveling and traveling and traveling and they follow the sun around the globe. And it's so hard. So that was definitely one of the things that surprised me a lot.
You know, it's so interesting when you think about some of the stars, whether it was a Chris Evert, and they would marry some other tennis players.
Right.
And it must be for that very reason, or who could, it would be so hard to develop any kind of meaningful relationship.
It would be very hard, romantic or otherwise.
Yeah,
I mean,
right,
hard to
sure.
maintain family relationships and friends. And,
Yeah.
you know, one of the players was explaining, I can't commit. I can't commit to anything. I can't commit to a family reunion that's going to take place this month in the summer because I have a tournament scheduled around then, and I don't know whether I'm going to be knocked out the first day or be in the finals 2 weeks later. And it's true, their lives are lived very last minute, and it makes it really, really challenging, I think.
Wow, wow. So what are the pressures of the top tier of tennis players that, you know, Charlie ends up making this top tier? What really are the pressures on them, and what does it do to their game and do to their own psyches?
Well, I mean, I think the travel is a big part of it. The fitness is tremendous. I think years ago it used to be not nearly as important, probably true of every sport, but the actual fitness training, it's hours and hours in the gym in addition to hours and hours on the tennis court. So I don't think it was always like that. It was a lot of like on court time and then you were done, but now it's a lot of gym. And, you know, I think especially with the women, there's the expectation of that I don't know whether, it depends, it's hard to generalize, but with some of them, the expectation of how they're going to look. There's a lot of conversation about their appearance and their hair and their makeup and their clothing and who they're dating. Things like that is a part of the conversation, more, I think, for the women and the men. But, you know, I think really when push comes to shove, the most challenging part of the whole thing is the mental strength to tune out everything. They're alone on the court. There's no coach. There's no team. It's just a player. And that, to me, seems like the hardest part of all.
Well, and so the title of the book, The Singles Game, because you do feel like you're alone. Yeah, very alone.
For sure.
What was it like? You know, you think of like Serena Williams or her sister, and what incredible athletes they are, but also too, you know, you look at they were designing their own tennis outfits for a while, and now, you know, you watch some of the tournaments now, and everything's gone back to all white. It was so interesting to see that recently. But for Charlie, you know, she's a beautiful woman to begin with. You know, she's an incredible athlete, but you know, she gets caught up in the glamour of the whole thing and what happens. So we don't want to do any spoilers of what happens, because that's some of the.
But yes, no, she is encouraged by those around her to make a change from what they perceive as the sweet, good girl, sort of America's sweetheart, Charlie Silver, to a much stronger, aggressive, go-getter, warrior princess. That's what they want the image change to be, both on and off the court. And without giving too much away, it definitely calls for a big change for her in a lot of different areas of her life.
And her horrible coach is calling for her to be this warrior princess too. On the court. So Miami, part of the book is, you know, and it's set there, and you talk about the Miami Open and having. Did you go down there? And
I did.
So
Yeah.
tell us what that whole scene is like in Miami, because Miami has its own scene. Outside of tennis, obviously,
Yes.
that is quite incredible. So tell us about that experience.
Oh, it's just
putting
it's
it
a
into
great tournament. Great tournament, really fun. I spent a lot of time down there and was behind the scenes there and did other fun things with the players. Like I went to, they do, I think it's a tradition, I think they do it every year. A bunch of the players go to swim with the dolphins at the aquarium and meet the fans. So I did that and went with one of the players to do a photo shoot on the beaches of Key Biscayne. So they're sort of fitting in other things also during the tournament. But and went to the player party, of course, on South Beach, which was really fun too. Full red carpet, local celebrities, the whole thing. Everyone all dressed up and looking great.
That's cool.
So
are you like to watch tennis on television?
I do.
Yeah?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. And the cameos in the book, you have some interesting cameos. Just you can mention a few, and that won't give anything away, right?
No, but
okay.
No, I can. It won't give anything away.
Okay,
I'm
good.
doing,
Yeah.
I do a lot of the celebrities who find themselves in the player boxes or the royal box at Wimbledon.
Royal box,
I think there's Bradley Cooper, and of course there's always David Beckham because he is always always watching tennis.
Yeah.
But I intersperse a lot of the real players too. So while my characters are fictional, I do actually have them competing against and playing with real players. So that was fun for me to
that would be
do.
And interesting to describe the play, with those kind of players.
Yeah.
So the cover, I think, is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So did you have a lot of choice on that?
I
they bounce it
did.
by? Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Because is that a necklace or is it a bracelet?
Well, it's meant to be a tennis bracelet.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But it's because it's hanging from the top. You're not so sure.
Yeah.
But that charm is actually similar to one that my parents gave me when I was like 11 or 12.
Oh, that's cool.
A little a silver racket charm with, the tiniest little chip of a diamond that was a tennis ball. And I've wore it for years and years and loved it. So it found its way to the jacket.
I always ask authors about outlining. Are you an outliner, or do you just do like a beginning, how it's going to end, and pretty much you're writing and surprising yourself with what's happening as we are when we're reading?
I am somewhere in between.
Okay.
Yes, I do a chapter sketch. An outline sounds, I'm thinking like Roman numerals I don't do that so much, but I will sketch out. I'll write a paragraph summary about what I want every chapter to look like, or the things that I want to happen in that chapter. And then I set out and start writing it. It never sticks to it, but it gives me a foundation.
Or a road, a path.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, we said very briefly at the beginning about the success that The Devil Wears Prada brought you. How did it change your life? And how did it change your life in ways outside of even your writing life?
Well, that was certainly the main way, and the way that I'm most grateful for is I get to make a living being a writer now. That opened all the doors and allowed for that to happen, and that's been by far the best part. So I feel really grateful to that book and that whole time for now.
Sure. So I don't know, a lot of people don't realize that Miranda Priestley in the book was based on your boss at American Vogue. And
inspired by.
Inspired by Anna Wintour. And then, of course, Andrea, or is it Andrea?
Andrea? Either one.
One. Was you, that girl who was, new out of college and got this job as an assistant. So 10 years ago, so how long ago was that for you? It's longer than 10 years ago.
Oh, definitely. It was a long time ago. Almost like 17 years ago. Yep.
So you must still get a ton of email or people contacting you about whether they've seen the movie or they've read the book and they read the sequel or whatever. So it's something you will always be hearing about, I'm sure.
Which makes me happy.
Yeah,
I know
I'm sure.
It was really exciting to have that happen with your first book. And of course the movie brings so many more people in that may not have read the book or even known about it. So
how did you feel about the movie? Was it a
I loved
good
it.
portrayal?
It was. I thought it was terrific. I thought they did a great job with it, and it could have gone any which way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So
for sure.
I think I was really, really happy with how it turned out.
That's great, because so many authors, and I've known a few who've said they didn't want to associate themselves with the film that was made.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I think that's the more common experience.
Right. Yeah. And I think I read, maybe you said that, the way that Meryl Streep played Miranda, she brought a little bit more humanity to her.
Definitely.
And you did see that side of her.
You
and
did.
How sad she was. And in some ways you pitied her.
Well, the script was written differently for
Yeah,
that reason.
right, exactly. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have been very content to just keep her a one-dimensional monster. That would have been fine with me. Yeah.
Sort of like Todd in this one,
yeah,
right?
It's fine.
Okay. So, you think about, whether it's Andrea in that book or you're talking about Charlie in this book, these stories are sort of trying to find your identity, find out who you are.
Definitely.
The real you. And then having the pressures of being in a certain situation where you just don't know where to turn. And then you realize that this is not where you want to be.
Definitely.
Yeah. So did you feel that way when you were working at Vogue and that this wasn't for you and that it was time to go? And this theme is, I think, is just finding out who you really are.
Right. Agreed. And I think it's something that's really, women of every age, it's something that they're thinking about and struggling with. It goes hand in hand with the balance of everything. And it is, you're right, it's definitely a common theme in my books and something that I'm always thinking about.
Well, that's why I think you ought to write a YA.
I think that would be really interesting.
I think you could write for young adults very, very well.
Thank you.
So tell me, what is your earliest recollection that you have of wanting to be a writer? Do you remember how old you were, and even something you might have written that your mom and dad thought was pretty cool?
I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not going to be the person who's going to sit here and tell you that I always wanted to be a writer, but I was always a huge reader. Like an obsessive reader. And there were rules governing when I was not allowed to read. It was sort of like that. And then when I remember being 9 or 10 and my parents let me loose in the library, I didn't have to stay in the young adult section anymore. I could read whatever I wanted. And that was very liberating and awesome and so much fun. The first sort of feedback, I haven't thought about this in a million years, but I wrote an essay for an essay contest in high school and won a scholarship for a trip to Israel based on an essay about why Israel was important to me. So that was kind of the first writing
thing where you got some success.
Right, some feedback. Right.
Well, I think you can agree with this. I don't think any good writer you have to be a voracious reader.
100%.
Yeah. I don't think there's any way around it.
I don't think there's any exception.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Right. So you've done some magazine writing, and that's different kind of writing. How has that helped you in your novel writing? I mean, doing that type of...
I don't do a tremendous amount of magazine writing, mostly because of the book deadlines.
Sure.
But...
Yeah, those editors are on you. Yeah.
They're on you. They're on you. They are. It's interesting. It's totally different experience. A lot of what, it's why I love writing books. It's 100% mine. Magazines are super fun, but most of the time they're looking to make a uniform voice. And, it's hard when you want to be really descriptive or you want to use 100 words when you can only use 3. They're not into that, so it's a little different.
Sure. So I want to know, how do you have time to write with 2 young kids? So how do you fit that into your day? I mean, that's pretty.
It's pretty. They've been pretty good about. Them being there really disciplines me. I work around their schedule now. So I drop them at school in the morning. I work in the morning, and then pretty much right before they come home, they're both home at 1 because they're both in preschool. I go to the library and I work in the afternoon there because I can't be at home when they're there. So it works. It works somehow.
Okay, so Lauren, at the end of these interviews, I just do it. This is a quick lightning round. This is your reading life, So whatever comes to you on these quick questions. Your favorite book when you were a child?
Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Okay. Anything in high school that still stayed with you that you read?
Marjorie Morningstar.
Oh.
I loved that book.
Yeah. Okay, how about something at college when you were at Cornell? and you were majoring in English that has still stayed with you?
Oh God, there's so many. How am
I
I
know.
going to choose?
I know. It's sort of just what occurs to you right off the bat.
I mean, it's so cliched, but it would be Anna Karenina. Yeah.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, you do. Of course you do.
No. But
Yeah.
there's some new translations too of
Yes,
that book, and
yes.
that was one of my absolute favorites too.
It's wonderful.
Okay, how about a book? Any book you've read in your entire life that you've been an evangelist for, you could not tell enough people they had to read it.
I would say it was a while ago in the mid-2000s, and forgive me for not even remembering her name, the author's name, but Random Family. It was nonfiction, and this amazing journalist lived with families in the Bronx for a year and told the stories of their lives, and I thought it was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And what about a fictional world, if you could live in it or at least visit it, what would that be?
If I could visit it, not live, but just visit?
Yeah,
Okay.
either one.
There was a book I read a long time ago called Last of the California Girls, and it depicted Southern California in the 60s. Sort of surfer culture right at the cusp of the Vietnam War, and it was so interesting, and I would love to kind of visit that.
And how about a book of one of your favorites you share with your kids that you like to curl up with and read together?
Oh, there are so many. I just started. She's a little young for it, but she doesn't love that there aren't a lot of pictures, but I've just started. I'm pushing it, Little Women, with my daughter. So
great.
I figure we'll try.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And what are you reading now or you read recently that you really enjoyed?
Just finished last night Before the Fall, Noah Hawley.
Oh,
Loved
that was great.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great,
really,
great,
really good.
great
Really
book.
good. Everyone's got to read that. It's a great
Yes, agreed.
one. Okay, A+, 100%.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
But Lauren, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you
the
so
singles
much.
game.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great conversation of all things tennis and a whole lot more with New York Times best-selling author Lauren Weisberger. She wrote The Devil Wears Prada, and her new novel is The Singles Game, a perfect summer read. Thanks for joining me on Authors Reveal.